one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 5 on our agenda is our superintendent's presentations. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Galvin. We have each month we do something, if you're new to this, called the Mason Momentum Wayfinding Video. It's we dive deep into a story and we share and lift a story up from our district so that if you're not familiar with what's going on in this example at MECC with some of the great work that's happening, it's your chance to hear some of that story and to unpack some of that story. So you'll see that tonight, and if you're not familiar, you can go to our website and see the other wayfinding moments that we have shared each and every month, highlighting great stories throughout the district of good work going on. So Tracy, you want to take it away and tell us a little bit about this month's wayfinding video?
Yes, we're grateful to live in a community that people from all over the world call home. At the Mason Early Childhood Center, over 50% of students are multilingual, and about 35% of students are English language learners. MECC teachers are wayfinders for our students and families, often the first educators that families get to know and count on. This year, several of our MECC teachers and ESL teachers are co-teaching their kindergarten classes in order to better meet the needs of all of the learners in their classrooms. The students who are learning English, the students who speak English as their native language, students who are struggling readers, and students who are ready for more enrichment or extension. Today, we're going to get to watch MECC classroom teacher Elizabeth Weddle and ESL teacher Emily McClinton explain the approach and the exciting growth that they're getting to see in their learners.
I love our English language learners. They are like little sponges, and they just, I can learn so much even from them. And I love teaching them and seeing their growth. It's just a really rapid growth. I love coming into the classroom because in kindergarten, it's a close-knit community of teachers, and they're all amazing teachers. And so I love to come in and learn from them, and then now being able to come in for a longer period of time in our co-teaching model, they can learn from me and I can learn from them, and it just makes us better teachers. When you have this like language-based multilingual approach, they learn about other students' cultures. They see that even though this student maybe looks different from me, we have a lot of the same similarities. And I think like that will set them up later in life to every situation that they're in, they can be comfortable in and they can adapt to it because they're used to students that are just learning the language, students that maybe are shy, students that are gifted, and they can learn to work with anyone.
It is nice with the co-teaching model for certain parts of the day. So if I'm doing a reading lesson and it doesn't really fit for an English language learner, she can pull aside and do a different lesson for that. Or if she's teaching a lesson for the day and I have some higher readers, I can pull aside and work with those students in a different. So whether or not it was an ELL co-teaching model, it's just nice to have a co-teacher to help differentiate instruction. But I think they see this as equals. We're two teachers that are helping them. They feel comfortable going to both of us. They know that we're here to help them, and it just works. We are a big school, but everybody, I think, feels comfortable coming. We embrace whoever comes to us. I think that the kids don't feel the bigness that we sometimes feel. We have animals for our classrooms, and this is their penguin spot, and they know the couple classes around them or the couple classes they go to recess with. And they just feel that community and love from everybody around them, and they don't realize quite how big it is.
We're very inclusive, and I know that all the ESL teachers and classroom teachers really communicate with the families. So we use talking points app, we translate things, or even with our new intake form, and Sean, our intake person, I added the question, do you know anyone in the district? And so then we can, when they come in, we can make connections with them. Oh, we saw that your cousin is in this class. But I think it's important to make connections with the families, and so I found that to be the most powerful in this position. I was on maternity leave for 8 weeks this year, and so I came back and I was like, oh wow, this student is talking. And sometimes you'll have students that maybe spend half the year not talking, and maybe they'll just talk in like a small group. And so to see that growth, then by the end of the year, they're talking to their friends, they're letting their needs know. They're reading and writing. It's amazing the growth that you see in them. And then in first grade, when I see them in the hall and they come over and say, Mrs. Wilkinson, and maybe last year they were choosing 2 3-word phrases, and now they're speaking in sentences.
The biggest thing is the amount of growth that children can make being immersed with children that speak English, with children that don't speak English. They're only here 3 hours a day in half day kindergarten. And when they come in not knowing anything, and when they leave talking in full sentences into their friend with all this, they can read, they can do everything. It's just phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing that wayfinding video and a little story out of MECC and seeing 2 teachers do phenomenal work around co-teaching in their classroom and serving our students well. And what a beautiful example of what's going on in all of our classrooms. You just got a quick taste of that. So thank you so much. You can find that on our YouTube page and site. So if you follow our YouTube for our district, you can see that in all the other wayfinding videos. So thank you again. All right, our second presentation, I'm going to just move over to the podium really quickly, and it is a special month, so let's talk a little bit about what that means. For anyone that is speaking into the mic tonight, just a quick note, you don't have to lean into it. It will pick up all of your sound from right here, but you want to be about this close so it does pick up for our viewers at home as well. And hopefully that sound is sounding okay for everybody over there. Well, this is January, and as many people know, January is Board Appreciation Month, and our board loves to be appreciated. No, they are appreciated, but they do not want any attention, so we'll make this to the point, but I do have some things that I think are worth sharing with you. There is a gift on your table in front of you. You don't have to open it now, but I'll tell you just a little bit about it. It's a book called Leading with Gratitude, and it's a book that several of us have read, and it really impacted us in a way to think through when leading and leading with a spirit of gratitude, the impact you make on others in the culture that you set. And as board members, you have been great models for us, and serving well and serving consistently. There's also I believe possibly a gratitude journal that goes along with that, because we've also looked at the science as a team around when you keep a gratitude journal on a daily basis. The statistics are, I don't have them right in front of me, but they're compelling. They're worth looking up. The benefits to your overall health, your well-being, your outlook, your productivity, everything that you could think that would be positive has a connection to that daily gratitude journal. So we encourage you with that you'll find something daily. And if you're listening tonight, we encourage you to consider a daily gratitude habit as well. Well, here are some things that we're grateful for. So as our team was thinking about you all and your leadership for our staff and our students and our community, here are 10 things that we'd just like to highlight, and then we'll get you off the hot seat and get on with the rest of our meeting. But we do feel like it is worth spending some time here. First, your care and compassion for our students and staff is clear. The way that you care for our students and staff by asking great questions, by showing up, and by always honoring our students, not only here at the meetings, but throughout our community. And your compassion to see our staff be successful and be supported is deeply appreciated. Your commitment to our community. One of the ways that you show your commitment to our community is your long-term planning, asking great questions, setting us up in 2031 to be debt-free as a school district, which is unheard of for public school districts, but also to have all of the projects that are going on now to position us to do those debt-free without going back to our taxpayer base. These are commitments that you've made to our community, and that Mason quality that we deliver, and we appreciate and are grateful for your leadership in that. The investment in your time and your talent. You invest a lot of time and you give a lot of your talent, and people don't all see that. Our board members give, at least behind the scenes, we have 10 superintendent committees that each of those committees meet on a pretty regular basis, most of them on a monthly or every other month basis. It's 2 or 3 hours of deep investment and commitment that you're giving of your time. You have 6 to 10 hours with me in board meetings, whether it's work sessions or executive sessions or regular sessions, but those are invested hours that you're giving to us that are in the evening, typically away from your families, away from your loved ones, and you all have jobs that you're working outside of this. So we appreciate that investment and the countless hours that you show up, whether it's standing next to me at a sporting event or one of our performing arts performances and supporting our kids. So thank you for your investment. It's noticed and appreciated. Number 4, your sacrifice by giving up hours and hours, not only of your personal time, but to also give up some of the privileges of just being just a normal person in our community. Your face is plastered everywhere. People reach out to you when they have a thought about how our school could be better, and we appreciate you being that person and stepping into that role, because people need someone to go to, and you all are the right people for them to go to. And we appreciate the sacrifice you make to put your things aside to listen and to be there for people. Number 5, you have high expectations, and we appreciate that. You have high expectations on myself, on our treasurer, on the rest of our team, to do well and to perform and to deliver high-quality educational experiences for our kids. And the reason you have those high-quality expectations is because you want high-quality experiences for our kids in the classroom. So we appreciate that. It helps us to be on our best. Number 6, your vision for our future. You have an exciting vision for our future. You support our vision for our future, and it's something that I know if you've been a part of our bold moves and our conversations, we always want to be the best choice for all students, and that's something that we appreciate about your leadership and our board. Number 7, stability. I could speak on this for an entire evening. A school board that provides stability for a community allows us to do the work that we need to do each and every day to serve all students and to make sure all of our students feel welcome here. And that is something I cannot tell you how much we appreciate that you are not out there doing, there's a million examples of what that looks like in our world today, and we appreciate the stability and your commitment here for that. Your curiosity and learning. You ask great questions, whether we're talking about a 2030 plan or we're just talking about how staffing and how we want to take our class sizes down. You ask great questions on how we're going to do that and how we'll be fiscally responsible to our community in that process. Number 9, your listeners. You're willing to listen to me up here, just tell you how great you are as a board, but you're also willing to listen to any of our community members. You listen to them through phone calls, through meetings, through coffees. You listen to our students. You listen when there's concerns. We've had countless hundreds and hundreds of emails go back and forth, and you listen and you take the time to be responsive and accessible. We appreciate that about you as a board. And finally, and most importantly, you are student-first minded. You hold us to that same standard, and that's something that comes through clear in your decision-making. When you make decisions here tonight to allocate resources, it's at the end of the day for our students, and you hold us to that, and I appreciate that about you. So it is January, it is Board Appreciation Month, and I hope that you know that you are, from our community, from us as a team, and from our students, deeply appreciated. So thank you for the time to just point out some specifics, but you are appreciated. Hopefully you enjoy the book and that you're able to lead with gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate it. And I think I speak for our whole board when I echo Jonathan. At least one sentiment that you expressed up there is that you're correct. We do not like the attention and hot seat. So thank you for moving swiftly through that portion of our meeting. We have a great administration here in Mason. We have fantastic teachers. We have outstanding parents and students who make the work that we do not only rewarding, but so much more manageable than it could be, and that we hear about in other communities. So we really appreciate all of you that are invested in making this school district a great one. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, normally we take a pause at this portion of our meeting following the superintendent's presentations because usually we are recognizing, acknowledging some of our outstanding students in the district, and those folks usually like to move along with their meeting. Since that's not the case here tonight, we will move on to the next item of our agenda, which is our hearing of the public. I see that we have several folks who have signed up to speak tonight, so in light of that, I will just go over the guidelines and ground rules for our hearing of the public. This is a limited public forum and a portion of our meeting where we have an opportunity to hear from members of our public. Each person who speaks is a resident or employee of our district, and I see from the forms that have filled out that everybody here is a resident, so I appreciate you all filling those out. Each person who speaks is allotted 3 minutes at the podium, and this is just one of many channels that we afford people to address us as board members. Obviously, it's a narrow, short amount of time to convey whatever your thoughts are, so we would encourage you, if there is more that you would like to say than you can express in 3 minutes. Our emails, our phone numbers are all on our website. We have heard from some of you tonight, and or I should say prior to tonight, about some of the topics that are mentioned in your forms, and have responded to those of you who've reached out already. But to the extent that there is additional conversation or interest in dialogue, would encourage all of you to follow up, and we'll be happy to continue on with a conversation outside of the hearing of the public portion of our board meeting. In addition to those ground rules, the total amount of time allotted for our hearing of the public is 30 minutes total. I don't think we should be exceeding that tonight based on the number of speakers I have here, so hopefully everybody should be able to get their full 3 minutes in. To the extent you hear somebody who you agree with and kind of articulates what you would like to say to the board, feel free to just endorse that person and let somebody else come up and speak. But again, everybody is allotted those 3 minutes. And with that, I should also allot that this is a portion of our meeting for us to hear from the public. It is not a portion where the board takes any action. We don't vote on anything during hearing of the public. Frankly, we don't vote on anything outside of what we have set as our agenda that was available as you guys came in tonight. And so this is a portion of our meeting where sometimes it can feel a little awkward or clunky because it feels like you're just talking at us. But we do appreciate your interest in the district's work. We appreciate your comments when you come up. It's just a policy and a rule that we stick to for the purpose of efficiently conducting the business of our meetings and also being respectful of your time, of our administrators' time, and the folks who are watching our meetings, to make sure that we can hear from everybody and also conduct the business of the district. So with that, I will go ahead and proceed. Our first speaker tonight, Emery Whitmer, I think it's Gouch.
Hello everyone, my pronouns are she, they, and I'm a sophomore here at MHS. I am a member of Mason's Inclusive Excellence team and also on Mason's Mike, which is known as Mason's Inclusion Club. You may remember me last time I spoke, which was at the House Bill 616 meeting, and I'm here again to speak to you about House Bill 68, which I will get into shortly. I'm here to speak to you because I have been talked to by many of my friends, peers, and their families, and they have expressed a sentiment about this bill and how they don't feel safe. You probably know the LGBTQ+ acronym, in which over 1/5 of the Gen Z community identifies with. The transgender community specifically, in its youth, 48% of its female and non-binary community seriously considered attempting suicide this past year, as well as 56% of the male youth. This is according to the Trevor Project. I'm not here to debate today anything regarding the existence of transgender people or anything like that. I'm just asking you to consider condemning House Bill 68, also known as the Ohio SAFE Act, SAFE standing for Saving Adolescents from Experimentation. Being on the Mason Inclusive Excellence team, I want to believe, and truly do believe, that Mason is not a school that just does the inclusivity bit for media, pamphlets, or flashy emails to send to potential parents. We do inclusive excellence because we genuinely believe and care about our students. And I hope tonight that you guys will consider what we are saying and take that in your future reference. I also know that we use E+R=O, which is event plus response equals outcome. you know how our stories matter, and also that responses are invaluable. When you make a response, you can also not make one. And by not making a response, you are just as bad as the perpetrator. I don't ask you to do something grand. I'm not even asking you to give us money to go visit the Senate, because I know we're a big school district and you have money to put other places. I'm asking that you consider to support Mason students and just recognize that all of us and their families belong. We are a Mason community. Unity, all caps, like in the hashtag. I want you to recognize a similar statement that you guys made previously with House Bill 616, as Tracy Carson said. We will always be opposed to legislation that erodes local control. This appears to be another example of Columbus searching for a problem that simply does not exist. Certainly not in Mason. Most importantly, we have a duty to ensure that every comment, students and staff, know that they belong. I want you to continue this and think about it tonight. Maybe make a statement similar to that one, or maybe more. We would be more than happy to discuss with you on future days about what that would look like. Me, as an Inclusive Excellence member, on Mike, or some of my fellow students who are members of the Mason High School Genders and Sexualities Alliance leadership team. I appreciate you listening to us tonight, and I know this was a little impromptu. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Prachi Patel.
Hello everyone, my name is Prachi Patel and I'm a junior here at Mason High School. As a leader of the Gender and Sexuality Alliance at our school and a gender nonconforming person, this bill concerns me and many people I know. One thing this bill aims to do is to make it much more difficult for minors to be diagnosed with gender-related conditions. Specifically, for a minor to be unable to be diagnosed if they have depression, anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism spectrum disorder, or other mental health conditions, or any sort of physical, mental, or other type of trauma. Many trans youth suffer from a mental illness due to gender dysphoria, which the National Health Service defines as a sense of unease that a person may have because of a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity. Having their identity be invalidated by their family, school, and society itself weighs on a person. As Emery said earlier, studies have shown that nearly half of trans youth have seriously contemplated suicide, and the lack of support they have in their lives is a major, if not the primary factor of that. Besides mental illness, this bill would also mean that any minor with ADHD or autism would be unable to get a diagnosis. There is no evidence to prove that ADHD or autism causes anyone to be transgender, despite the overlap between the two groups. These new restrictions would lock many minors out of receiving a diagnosis for arbitrary reasons. Mental illnesses such as depression and anxiety are often caused by not being able to receive gender-affirming care, and there is no evidence to suggest that ADHD, autism, or trauma causes an individual to be transgender. In Section 2 of the bill, it states that the vast majority of children who are gender nonconforming or experience distress at identifying as their biological sex come to identify with it anyway in adolescence or adulthood, making medical intervention unnecessary. While this may be true, it's not the full story. Transitioning is incredibly difficult. Medically transitioning is expensive and lengthy, which is something many people don't have the money to do so. Socially transitioning comes with its own challenges, mainly discrimination from families, employees, and even strangers. For many, it is simply not possible for them to transition without serious risk. Instead, they suffer in silence. As for gender nonconforming people, as one myself, I can tell you that society is simply not built for us. There are defined social roles for girls and boys growing up, and men and women in adulthood, with no space left for us. We identify as our biological sex in adulthood and adolescence because there is simply no other option. And it's safer for us. The phrasing of the bill doesn't include how difficult it truly is to transition, instead assuming that people grow out of being transgender. We ask for your support to speak out against this bill to make a real difference, and can answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Prachi. Our next speaker is Jesse Paley.
Hello Hello, Mason School Board members and people of the Mason community. My name is Jessie Paley, and I'm an 11th grader at Mason High School. I use they, he pronouns and identify with both the labels of transgender and non-binary. I have been a leader of MHS's Gender and Sexuality Alliance for the past 2 years, as well as being one of the water polo team captains. I know firsthand the impact House Bill 68 will have on Mason's youth. I have been publicly out as non-binary for 3 years, and have fortunately been met with unconditional support from my friends and family. For the past year and a half, I have had sporadic visits to Cincinnati Children's Transgender Health Center. Getting an appointment to this clinic is no easy task, requiring a therapist referral and permission from legal guardians, along with a typical 6-month waiting list to get an appointment. This clinic does more than simply prescribe gender reassignment hormones. It is a critical resource for aiding both transgender youth and their families. For me, it has helped me feel more confident in my own gender identity, even without the prescription of hormones. My preferred name was able to be added to my medical records, and my parents were able to talk to medical professionals about my transition. And if needed, the clinic offered religious/spiritual counseling. Every trans person's transition is completely different, and even though hormone replacement therapy is not currently in the cards for me, it may be necessary for other trans individuals. There are hurdles already in place for prescribing minors hormone replacements, with medical professionals making sure it's the best step for each person's journey. House Bill 68 will take this option off the table and limit trans minors to only social transitions until they are legally adults. Along with the restrictions to trans healthcare, this bill also takes away any opportunity for trans people, trans women specifically, to play on sports teams of the gender they identify with. Current Ohio regulations allow trans women to compete in sports after they, end quote, have been taking hormones for at least a year, or show by the way of sound medical evidence that they don't possess any physical or psychological advantages over genetic females in bone structure, muscle mass, and testosterone, end quote. These regulations have allowed 19 trans girls to play on girls' sports teams in the middle and high school levels. Being a trans athlete myself, I know the feeling of constantly being assumed the same gender as the gender team I play on. I am sound enough in my identity to know that gendered sports teams I play for does not define my gender identity, and others should have the same opportunity to play for their identified gender sports teams, while also complying with the Ohio trans sports regulations that have been in effect for the past 8 years. Taking hormone access away from youth would make these regulations null and void, because trans women would not be able to meet the requirements without the assistance of hormones and puberty blockers. Republican Governor Mike DeWine has met with doctors from multiple care centers around the state and has vetoed this House bill. The issue of transgender health care is not a political one, but a matter of taking care of our youth. We ask for your support in condemning this House bill so we can show the rest of Ohio that we do not feel safe under the SAFE Act. We've sent each of you an email with resources on this bill and are willing to help you with any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jesse. Our next speaker is Bryn Pendrak.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Bryn Pendrak. I have deep roots in Mason. My grandparents lived on Boyd Lane. My mom, aunt, and uncles all graduated from Mason. And now my eldest son, Ben, goes to MECC, where he's learning what it means to be a comic kid. Our district prides itself on embracing values of inclusivity, prioritizing research-based practices, and ensuring the safety of every student. Today, I implore you to uphold these principles by taking a stand against House Bill 68. As parents, we worry for our children. I've seen the teachers at MECC express phenomenal care and acceptance for Ben. He's twice exceptional, both gifted and diagnosed with ADHD, and I've seen the impact of inclusive excellence and intentional SEL instruction have on his ability to feel safe at school. We love being a Mason Comet family, but find ourselves in a position where we're considering how long we can safely stay in Mason. You see, as much as I worry for Ben, I worry more for my younger child, Micah. Micah is my 4.5-year-old daughter. She was assigned male at birth, but for the last 21 months, she's been telling me that she's a girl. When she first told me, I started my research immediately. I read books, I learned to follow her lead, to be on the lookout for her assertion of her gender identity, to be persistent, insistent, and consistent. I spoke with her pediatrician, and I learned to step into her world. We're almost 2 years into the journey, and we're definitely at persistent, insistent, and consistent. She wants to be an astronaut mom when she grows up. And she's eager to have her hair long enough to pull back into a ponytail, and asks me if she'll be able to have babies or a family when she grows up. Research consistently shows that supporting trans students in their identity positively impacts their mental health, their academic performance, and their overall well-being. By standing against HB 68, we align ourselves with evidence-based practices that prioritize the needs of our students. Tomorrow, Mason is holding a curriculum night, where we are celebrating and communicating the research and evidence-based practices that inform what our children are taught every day. That same foundation of science and evidence should be applied here. Every credible medical organization, representing over 1.3 million doctors in the United States, calls for age-appropriate, gender-affirming care for transgender and non-binary people. In many cases, this care is life-saving. Transgendered youth with access to gender-affirming therapies have lower rates of depression and are at lower risk for suicide. It's essential to recognize the safety of our trans children is jeopardized by this discriminatory legislation. I urge you, esteemed members of the board, to champion the values that define our district, that every child deserves to believe that they belong in our schools and that their learning community cares about them. Stand with us in opposing HB 68. Micah's future depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pendrak. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Kennedy.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Kennedy. I use she, her pronouns, and I've lived in Mason for over 20 years. I'm also the mother of 2 Mason high school graduates. Sorry, she got me all proclaimed. Sorry. I'm the mother of 2 Mason high school graduates, one of who just happens to be gay. I'm a former National Board of Governors with the Human Rights Campaign. The Human Rights Campaign is the nation's largest organization fighting for equality for LGBTQ+ people. And on behalf of our thousands of supporters in Ohio and our more than 3 million members and supporters nationwide, I appreciate the opportunity to share HRC's perspective on HB 68 with you today. I'm a proud Ohioan, sorry. And you can tell I care very deeply about this, very personal. It breaks my heart to say that HB 68 will do only harm to Ohio's kids. The bill will prevent young people from being able to access best practice, medically necessary health care simply because those people are transgender. It puts politicians in the examination room, inserting the judgment of Ohio's legislature versus the judgment of parents, children, and their doctors. The entire mainstream medical establishment in this country, including the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical Association, support gender-affirming care for transgender youth. That's because gender-affirming health care is, simply put, health care. Denying it to transgender young folks simply because they are transgender is discrimination, plain and simple. So is the prohibiting of transgender youth playing sports. Many people, including me, care deeply about the advancement of women's sports in this country, and we are rightfully protective of Title IX and what is accomplished for us. That is no reason to discriminate, though. Title IX is about offering opportunities for people who are marginalized to be able to partake in the deeply meaningful and character-forming activity of school sports. Women and girls continue to suffer from perpetual underinvestment in women's sport, including equal pay, field time, travel opportunities, and much more. Those need to be addressed issues as well. We should also ensure that girls, all girls, are allowed to play, including transgender girls. HB 68 is addressing made-up problems that are simply a pretext for discrimination. Transgender young folks in Ohio receive and should be able to continue to receive best practice medical care that allows them to grow and thrive. Transgender girls participate in school sports as their true selves and have done so without issue for decades. HB 68 takes that game away in trying to present a solution to 2 manufactured problems. It only highlights that the discrimination is the only thing these 2 so-called problems have in common. All Mason students deserve a school where they are treated with dignity and out of respect they deserve. Our community is better than this. Our state is better than this. I call on you to please oppose HB 68. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Our next speaker is Sonia Milrod.
planning to come today just to be here to support what the students have been saying so amazingly. But last Friday, I was privileged to see a wonderful production put on by Mason High School Studio Theater under the direction of Mix C.J. Gray of the play, and a child shall lead. The student actors, stage crew, directors were absolutely amazing. I don't believe there was a dry eye in this small house at the end of the play. For those of you who don't know, this play is comprised mostly of the actual words, poetry, and music written by the children imprisoned by the Nazis in Terezin. Of the 15,000 children, fewer than 100 survived. In these fraught times, I want to thank Mason City Schools, Mason High School Studio Theater, the Mason Drama Boosters, the amazing students, and most of all, Mix C.J. Gray, the theater director, for their bravery in going forward with this production in these fraught times. I want to read the director's note. I had originally chosen to direct this play upon hearing a passing conversation in the hallway between two students about how, quote, the Holocaust wasn't real, end quote. And it made my blood run cold. There is so much misinformation out in the world today, and it astounds me that so much suffering and so many lives could be dismissed so easily, especially since there is ample documentation as evidence. Looking back, I had no idea how much the current events of today would amplify the relevance and importance of this play. I also want to say that, of course, this play ties in directly with the issue that these students and parents so bravely brought forward. As you may know, Nazis targeted LGBTQ people. They wore the pink triangle. My family wore the yellow star. And of course, they were also murdered. I want to also thank Mix Gray and the Drama Boosters for bringing 25 students involved in the production to the Holocaust and Humanities Center. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors and a member of the Holocaust and Humanities Center Speakers Bureau. It's been too many years since Mason schools have taken advantage of the educational resources of this center. I want to encourage everyone here, students, parents, people listening on TV, school board members, to attend this play this weekend. And congratulations to all the students who are speaking out so strongly. And I have written my representatives and Steve Wilson and the governor, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Milrod. Our final speaker is Amy Price.
Hi, I'm Amy Price, and I have a daughter in 10th grade and a daughter in 6th grade. And at this point, neither one of them identify in the LGBTQ community, but if they do someday, that's fine, and we'll go with that. That's okay. I mention them because I know that a lot of youth and parents are speaking out today that are directly impacted daily by what House Bill 68 is doing to their lives and their families. And this doesn't affect my life daily, and yet I still want you to condemn it, and I still want you to do it loudly. I kind of do disagree with you on one point. You said you did not want them to make a grand gesture, and I do. I want you to make a grand gesture. I want you to gather all the schools in Southwest Ohio, and I want you to make a coalition that stands against this, because it's not just important to Mason kids, it's important to all the kids in the communities all around us, because that's what makes a community better, is that all of the kids are supported, and the kids here in Mason. I've heard tonight these words, or I've read them on that board. Culture, culture, and that includes culture for all of our kids and who they are. inclusive excellence, personalized learning. What's more personal than who somebody is, who our students are? In Dr. Cooper's own words, sorry, Dr. Cooper, but I'm going to do this to you. Dr. Cooper said, best choice for all of our students. He also said, all of our students feel welcome here. Listeners, you're listening, and I hope you listened to these brave students, to these brave parents, and student first minded, that you're thinking about all of our kids, putting their needs first. House Bill 68 does not do that. You can do that. You have spoken out in the past. You have been leaders in the past. Mason is about going forward and being a leader in the community and being a leader in Southwest Ohio. And that is what I'm urging you to do tonight, is to be a leader and speak out in a very grand way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Just want to reiterate thanks again to all of our speakers for coming tonight. And as I mentioned in some of my prior communications via email, we won't be taking any formal action tonight regarding House Bill 68. We do appreciate hearing from you. And like I said, sometimes I know it feels like you're talking at us when you're talking during the hearing of the public, but to the extent anybody would like to follow up and have a longer conversation or dialogue, like I mentioned, all of our emails are on the website as well as our phone numbers. Be happy to talk with you more outside of the board meeting setting. But with that will end the hearing of the public portion of our meeting. And so this is a time when we usually take a pause in our meeting as well. You are more than welcome to stay the duration of the night, but we recognize you might have other things that are more pressing to get to. So we'll allow you all to move on with your evening if you choose. And when we resume, we will move forward with the rest of our agenda. Thank you, everybody. I will go ahead and move on. The next item on our agenda is policy change recommendations. I'm actually going to ask that we table this. This would be a first reading, is that right, Sean?
Correct.
I'm actually going to ask that we table this first reading until the next meeting, just because there's a couple of items in here that I think wanted to look at a little bit closer to give the board a little bit more time to review before we do start that first reading process. And then when we do have our first reading, there will be a period of time before we take a second reading and vote on adopting those policies. So with that, I'm going to move on then to the next item on our agenda. Item number 8 is superintendent's recommendations, personnel items. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Nothing major different than our normal routine here. We thank everyone that is stepping up and continuing to sign up to sub here. And you'll see a list of coaches on here that are continuing to sign up to coach and to share those Mason experiences with our kids. So we always want to thank folks that are doing that. There are a couple people that are either resigning or considering retirement. Those folks, we wish you the very best in your next steps of your career in your chapters, and thank you so much for your service here at Mason, but nothing out of the ordinary on this personnel recommendation.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Any other discussion?
Also, just a few teachers who have continued on their education journeys, reflected professional education. Recognize that and appreciate our teachers continuing to learn as professionals formally. That's reflected in the classroom, so we appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Sean, please call
Mr.
the roll.
Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
4-0.
Item number 9, superintendent's new course recommendations, first reading. This is first reading and not something we take action on tonight, correct, Jonathan?
That's correct. Yeah, so first reading just puts this out publicly to let people know that if they have questions about this, to reach out to myself, to Dr. Brennan. We are happy to meet with you to walk you through the rationale behind a course proposal like this. If you recall, we had course proposals last month that were on here that will show up later as a second reading. Once it becomes a second reading, which is a month out, then it's voted on and moved forward. Between first reading and second reading, we can change things, we can have conversation. This specifically is exciting. This is called My Mason Journey. It's an elementary specials course proposal. One of the things that we're trying to do as a school district, and we thank you as a board for this commitment, is to reduce our class size, and not just reduce our class size in a homeroom, but also reducing our class size in our specials classrooms. And some of our classes have gotten to a larger number, and there's lots of different needs in those classrooms. And so we've heard that from our teachers, and our principals have been listening to that, and we've worked with our teacher leadership to develop a new option. And so this would allow our specials classrooms to come down in their class size so they can give more personalized attention to their students, but it also allows us to move forward on some of the things that we want, that we're excited about with our portrait of a comment work, and some of our other helping our students in growing in their leadership development, understanding themselves. The proposal is linked on here so you can read a little bit more about it, but it's super exciting. We're happy to talk more about it, and I believe even tomorrow night at our curriculum night, if you have questions about that and you would like to come, I'll be there. We'll all be there, so we're happy to share more details with you if you have any questions about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, so we'll look for that second reading at our next meeting, and in the meantime, anybody in the public who's interested reviewing that, they can find a link on, is it the Board Docs website?
Board Docs website's the easiest place to find that, and again, if they want personal conversations, either reach out to myself or Dr. Brennan, or just stop by our curriculum evening tomorrow night, and we'll have lots of people there that can answer more questions about it.
So tomorrow night's a great opportunity. That's a good point for people to stop by and ask questions about that. If they want to access this via Board Docs and they have trouble navigating Board Docs or getting to that site, who's the best person for them to contact?
Well, my executive assistant, Angie Ingen, is probably the very best person to reach out to. Ingen, A-N, is her address. So it's Ingen, A-N, at masonohioschools.com, or you can find it on our website.
I'll also add it after tonight. I added the last time we had our first readings of our courses as a story on our website. So
Great.
I'll do the same thing. So it'll just be part of the stories that are on
Great.
the main homepage.
Great. Thank
And
you,
if I
Tracy.
can't remember any of those names, Cooper at masonohioschools.com. That's really easy, COOPER at masonohioschools.com. Happy to get you to the right place.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. All right. Next item on our agenda, item number 10, superintendent's recommendations, action items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just let me walk you through some of the items here. The first one on here is item A. is a job description for substitute teachers. During COVID, there were lots of legislation that made it very flexible for requirements for substitute teachers, and we took advantage of the flexibility, and we opened that very wide open to lots of folks coming in. And so one of the things that we're adding back to our requirement is that we would like our substitute teachers to have 2 years of post-high school education, and that's something that our community would like us to have. That's what we originally had, and now that we have our substitute ranks are getting more and more full each board meeting, we are feeling confident that we can move forward on this as an update in our job description. So that's what item A is about, going back to what we originally had. Item B here is the second reading of the course proposals that were brought actually all the way back in December. So in December, we brought these as a first reading. Just so people understand this, when a course comes through this process, it's actually gone through Student Achievement Committee, which Dr. Brendan leads. And before that, it goes through multiple layers to make it to the Student Achievement Committee, and it aligns with work that we're doing in our district. So if, for example, we're looking at social studies curriculum across the district, you'll see courses that actually come on board that align with that work. So there's this alignment and vetting process that makes it all the way to here, a second reading where we are now moving forward. This does not mean the class actually will happen yet. This will be on the course descriptors for kids to choose from. And if we have enough kids enroll, then the course will be considered to move forward. So there's still some layers there, but just so you know what that is. Item C, Southern Ohio Education Service Center. That's just a contract when we have students that have specific assignments that are outside of our school district, but they're residents here. We help fund those assignments that meet their needs. Item D is the OSBA annual. OSBA stands for Ohio School Board Association, the annual membership that we're a part of. As you all as board members have access to that, and we have the annual Capital Conference. There's also item E on here, which is the Ohio School Board Association Legal Assistant Fund, which basically when we referenced those policies earlier that we'll come back to next month, they have a team of people that are looking at legislation that's being passed. They update the policies that we have. They have attorneys that are writing those. They give them to us as recommendations. We go through a whole review to make sure those recommendations align with what we want to have in our district, and then we go through a first reading and a second reading in a committee meeting. So that's all item E. And then finally, item F is a city project easement agreement. As you can see, Mason is a desirable place to live. In order to make it continue to be desirable, you have to be able to get around on the roads because there's lots of traffic. And so they're expanding, just like they did down at 741, where they expanded the roads for traffic flow. They're doing that on the north side of Mason Montgomery. So if you're traveling up Mason Montgomery, and you can find this on the city website, in front of our bus garage, which is up there on the north side, they're expanding that roadway, and so that will happen. I believe the work happens this summer. So this is an agreement just to let us know that they're coming through. And when we have agreements like this, we have our attorneys read through those to make sure that it aligns with the things that we need here in the district. Those are the items for Section 10.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Like the other course proposal that we touched on earlier, I assume these 5 proposals, is there an opportunity for families to discuss those tomorrow night and going forward?
Absolutely. We'll discuss it anytime, anywhere. We'll always do that. But tomorrow night we do have a open curriculum evening that I would continue to invite people to. It's a great way to see a transparent look at everything we teach in our classrooms and ask questions. But if you can't make it, reach out to Dr. Brenner or myself. We are happy to walk people through the courses and the rationale behind them. Our teachers brought these courses, and our teachers have done a fabulous job of putting together the resources to make these attractive for our kids as well.
Awesome.
As a member of the Student Achievement Committee, I can attest to not only having heard these proposals, and they're pretty fantastic. We've got the illustrious Maria Miller, who's gonna lead the perspective on sports and American culture, so
Right.
Lots of students excited about that, but I also had the chance to go and taste some of the things that we've approved. The science of food we approved last year, and so if you ever get a chance to walk through the high school and you smell something that's like just amazing, those courses that we approved turned into sweet smelling bakery. I think there was like dulce de leche. Somebody was making fajitas. And I was like, if I was in high school, this is the class.
That's right.
So,
Good point.
I'd like to add to that point, I was looking at some of the titles and being represented on the same committee as Ian. These courses really are attractive to our kids, and that's what we really ultimately want. We want to get them excited about what they're doing in school every day. And the relevance of the Queen City studies, obviously about the Queen City of Cincinnati, even though there is another Queen City on the East Coast as we talk. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for kids to explore their immediate surroundings. And what a great way to teach them how to survive in the world is by using the tools that are right here in front of them. So good work on that, Amy.
And it's a great point. Our staff bringing these ideas and it just talks about the quality of our staff. You mentioned Maria Miller and her work on this, and the other teachers. They're bringing these ideas because they know they're attractive to our kids. They know they align with. And I love watching people continue to create and innovate, and it's exciting for us. I mean, it's one of the things we love the most about what we get to do. And there are questions about, so if one of these courses goes, what happens to other courses? Well, it's all driven by student interest. So if these courses fill up, other courses go a little bit lower, we reevaluate those courses. Sometimes courses do run their course, and they run their season, and we move those on, but we keep them on our books until there's a need for those. So, and we reallocate staff according to that so that we're making sure that we have staff teaching and interacting with our kids in the courses where they're signing up. So there's lots of moving parts to this, but we give all the credit to our Amy and her team, and also our teachers for bringing these forward.
Sean, I just have one question about the easement. So there's a perpetual easement that's where for the actual widening of Mason Montgomery Road, and then there's a temporary easement, which I assume is for staging for equipment to do the construction project. I'm okay with the concepts of easements for sure, but if we could, even after we approve these, if we could just clarify, the temporary easement mentions in the easement itself that the purpose is set forth in Exhibit A, but it doesn't really say what the purpose is. If we could just clean up that language to make sure that it says what the easement is for.
Sure.
You know, the purpose of widening a road, but what exactly are they going to be using our property to do? My guess, again, is to stage equipment and that sort of thing, but if we could just clean that up, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Orr?
yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
4-0.
Item number 11, Treasurer's Report. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion?
So the first few items A through D, will be our some of our typical monthly financial reports for the months of November and December. Item E, we're making a couple modifications to some budget and revenue accounts, so we'll have those on here for approval. Item F is actually approving the disposal of a few different fixed asset items. There's several pages of items in there, but one of the things that, if you look at that, most of these items are actually not specifically used by kids in our buildings. Most of these were actually used by some of our private school partners, where auxiliary funds from the state flowed through us, and so they used those dollars to purchase computers or Chromebooks or whatever it might be. And so anything with a Fund 401 on the right side, those are anything from private schools. So a few disposals in there of items that they are no longer using. And then the last thing we have on here tonight is our donations. And so again, I appreciate our families and businesses and other people in the community who are supporting Comic Cupboard, it seems like every month, or even other activities and items in the building. So thank you to them.
Thank you, Sean. Any other discussion? All right, Sean, please call the roll.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
4-0.
Item number 12, committee reports. Looks like we have a Mason Schools Foundation meeting to report back on. Tracy?
We did at our meeting. Two of the exciting things that we did were approve two kind of mid-year grants. One is a wonderful connection with our OKRs to have kind of peak moments. And so we approved a grant to Carrie Cronenberg to have puppets that will be made for every third grader. So that is really fun. And then we also approved a set of headphones that would translate for our prevention and wellness team specifically. We have a lot of translation opportunities in our district. We can get translators, we have all kinds of ways, but I think they wanted to pilot the opportunity when they had a student in crisis, where they didn't want to have to go to the extra person to be able to try this new equipment. So that's one of the things at the foundation. It's a pretty inexpensive ask, which I think we as a board were kind of interested in. It was less than $200 for those headphones, but I think it's one of the things the foundation really loves is that sometimes, we have the $4,000 puppet ask, and we're thrilled to be able to do that for every student. But then we also love to have these things that are, let's see if this works, if this is a pilot that could really help the district, and if it doesn't, that's okay. That's what our dollars work hard on. And then right now is the Reading Challenge donation time, so we encourage people to turn in their Reading Challenge money this week. MECCMENMI.
Or people could just go to masonschoolsfoundation.org, which
Yes.
is actually the new website of the foundation, which is just phenomenal. I really would encourage everybody to take a look. And I think, Tracy, you might have even talked about this at the last meeting, but there's also, we're starting to compile information on all of our grants over the history of the foundation. And so right now, live are examples of people's donations at work, making dreams happen in the classroom. So check that out, and there's also a link to donate to the Reading Challenge that is happening this week. So yeah, masonschoolsfoundation.org.
All right, thank you, Tracy and Matt. Policy Committee, Jonathan, Sean?
Yeah, just really quick summary. Policy Committee, if people are wondering what this is, once a quarter we receive the policy updates that we mentioned earlier with OSBA. As we get those recommendations, we go through and update our policies. And we have a pretty comprehensive, thorough process for that. Each of my team members are going through different parts. I go through it a few times. Then we bring a committee together to take a closer look at that. Then bring it here for first reading, and then it goes to a second reading. So that's the whole process. Sometimes there are policies locally that we are adjusting, but then there's also just language updates and you can click into here. If anybody would like to see those, you can click into here and see those as well. But there are also pieces that are just updating legal language that the law has changed, and so we have to update the references in here. So it will look like a lot. Sometimes it's just small little tweaks that we have to put in here.
And I'll just reference back, there were a couple of policies in our most recent, review of that committee. Wanted to afford the board and particularly with our fellow board member Desiree, who isn't able to make it with us tonight, just a little added time to review those and make sure we're comfortable before we move forward with our first reading of those. So I appreciate the time and the attention that you guys put into combing through those recommendations, highlighting the changes for us, and flagging things that we want to be sensitive to, working with our council on those, because it is a lot. It is not a light read. It is dense, and it makes our review much more streamlined and efficient. So thank you to everybody who had their fingerprints on those. All right, Safe and Inviting Schools Committee.
I could give that update
Go ahead.
if I,
Yep.
knowing that Todd is not able to be here, and he did a really nice job for a long time. We have been a district that's really believed in Alice as our way to kind of imagine active assailants, but any incident that would require us to, think quickly to respond. And our safety team that, we have such a great partnership with the city of Mason. They also were presenting Run, Hide, Fight, kind of as an alternative thought, just to evaluate both systems. It's not that we haven't appreciated Alice and received a lot of good, it's served us very well for many years. We may not go away from it, but we wanted to really look. And our police department also shared they use Run, Hide, Fight a lot with other businesses, and you're seeing that sort of at the college level as well. There were pros and cons to both. So the parents who are part of that committee, and Todd has done a really good job on Safety Council, which Desiree serves on, of kind of revamping that committee as well. So we have a lot more parents on there than were in the past. Really, we listened a lot this time, and we'll be going back and really doing some thoughtful evaluation of both. One thing we noted that the police pointed out in some of our things, Alice does require a lot of kind of, they're very proprietary, so you have to continue to like spend money training, where the Run, Hide, Fight people, they sort of allow you to do it and keep moving on. So that was one of the things that the teams were talking about. Can you get people up to speed? But we also talked about that there are things within Alice that we would never lose. For instance, the way we really report things. You know, our Safe Schools tip line, for instance, you can put those into Alice. If you went to another system, we wouldn't lose the great things about Alice. So that was just something that was major part of the topics, but nothing decided.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Student Achievement Committee.
Yes, we heard a little bit about one of our topics of discussion, which was the new course proposal for the elementary specials course, My Mason Journey, which Jonathan spoke to, and had the opportunity to hear from Chrissy Huffnagel and Dan Little, who've been really instrumental in developing that proposal about what's involved and what's planned, and then to get feedback from the committee. We also are in process of a math instructional resource review this year, with the goal of, it's a little bit more extended than we've done in the past. We just want to make time to make sure we're getting it right. So our goal is to have resources to pilot selected by the end of this year, and to have a year of piloting next year before making an official decision, knowing it's a big investment of not just dollars, but also time and professional learning to make sure that the resources are really used. So as part of that process, we've had teacher leaders involved throughout the school year, and will continue to be. And one of our first steps is to create a compass that guides our decision making. It's grounded in research, it's grounded in our big rocks, and it's shaped collaboratively with our teacher leaders' input. And so our Student Achievement Committee, each of our compasses and these instructional resource reviews, our Student Achievement Committee gives really valuable input that helps to kind of get to that last revision, to have something that we know has gone through the educator lens, but also the community and family lens. And sometimes it's the little things about, gosh, that wording is really jargony, and that doesn't actually make sense. That was one just a little good catch, but also bigger questions sometimes as well. So we got that valuable feedback. Also got to hear about some of the professional learning that educators at ME and MI have been doing around math. It's kind of running parallel to make sure that we're also ready to make really smart decisions about the resources we want to pilot. That's been some professional learning around number routines and building thinking classrooms. And then the fun part, we got to go visit a few classrooms and see that learning put into practice, and talk to some of our students and teachers about it.
Thanks, Amy. All right, I think that does it for our committee reports. Next item on our agenda is item 13, our legislative update. Jonathan?
Yeah, a couple items. You heard our speakers earlier reference House Bill 68. That is one that is on our radar. It was vetoed, so it made the news from the governor, but then the House went ahead and did an override, and the Senate is right now slated to do an override tomorrow to move that forward. I did talk with our representative and senator as well, to let them know kind of just where our student voices are and where that is. So I did pass that on to them. That is part of the collaboration I have with our legislators, to let them know kind of where that is. But just so you know, that's we'll watch that closely tomorrow. The other one that hit the news recently was House Bill 348. There was a lot of buzz around that because it was paying kids to go to school. That was like the big headline that hit all the news stations. we're going to be paying kids to go to school. And so then that just blows up. When you get into the details, the reason that made a lot of headlines, well, just because of what it is, but that was put together by Republican Seitz and Democrat Isaacson as a across the aisle together, putting in some legislation forward. Both of them are from Southwest Ohio, so I interact with both of those players on a regular basis. If you actually get into the details of the bill, which I encourage anybody that hears a headline, read the bill, because you start to get the details of what's going on. This bill specifically is going to, they're going to look at one rural school and one urban school. And then 50% of the kindergarten class and 50% of the 9th grade class will be eligible for a $25 biweekly installment and possibly a cash transfer of $150 at the end of each quarter if they do attend on a regular basis. The other 50%, which will be a random selection, being the control group, will not get any cash. They'll just go to school, and they'll see if the cash has any incentivized for chronic absenteeism. That is a big conversation, not just in Ohio, but across the nation, is that chronic absenteeism. Now, locally, if people are wondering, well, what are we doing in Mason? Well, one, we're not paying our kids to come to school. That is not part of, we're not on this plan. However, we try to create the best possible environment for all of our students by wonderful classes that Dr. Brennan mentioned that makes it exciting to come here. We also, for students that do struggle to make it to school, we have a team, the prevention and wellness team, that's constantly reaching out and working specifically with our families to understand the situation, because every story is different, and then to see what can we do to eliminate any barriers to get our kids to come to school. So we are very in tune with students that do have a harder time making it to school, and we do have a plan for each of our kids that we're working with. So just so those are things that are hitting the legislature, they're also hitting the news. Outside of that, there's a few bills that we're watching. They're not far enough along to get worked up about at this point in time, but I am in conversation, and I do serve, again, on our multiple state legislative committees. I have one actually this week in Columbus and another one on Zoom. So I'll weigh in on the things that represent our district well.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Next item is number 14, administrator commentary. Tracy?
I just want, during this month of January, just to really personally thank you and know what we see here is just such a small portion of the work and the dedication and care and love that you give. So many thanks for all of your work and all of your dedication to the staff and students and families of Mason.
Thank you, Tracy. Amy?
Well, I'll echo Tracy's sentiments, and thank you. We're really fortunate to have your leadership, and I deeply appreciate it. I do also have to put in one more plug. We've heard a lot about Teaching and Learning Night, which is tomorrow. I got to just make sure everyone knows. Tomorrow night, Teaching and Learning Night, it's at Mason High School in the Commons, and we'll be using some of the classroom spaces. We learned last year it was really loud, so we'll be using some of our classroom spaces near the Commons to make sure everybody can hear everything. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. We're running 4 sessions, so it's kind of a conference-style event. You can come to all sessions, you can pop in just to 1 or 2. It's really an opportunity to hear about what's new in teaching and learning in Mason City Schools. So come and you can attend sessions around the new course proposals we've heard about. You can come and I will be facilitating a session around the math compass that I was just talking about and our instructional resource review process. You can hear and learn and even engage in some activities related to math. And even if you're not a quote unquote math person, I promise it'll be fun and engaging. We have all sorts of 14 different sessions. It also is an opportunity for families to learn a little bit more about the scheduling process at the high school. We have sessions that are specific to our students and families that are accessing special education services. So there's something for everybody. We did have a registration link that we had sent out just to make sure we had the right spaces available. But please rest assured, even if you did not register, anyone is welcome to come tomorrow night, and we'll make sure we get you where you need to go.
Thanks, Amy. Tanya?
I also just wanted to take a moment to say thanks to our Mason City Schools Board for all of your support, especially being in the HR department. We have lots of personnel issues that need support, so thank you for your service.
Thank you. Christine?
Surprise. I'd like to thank you as well. No, really. I do appreciate your support. It is unwavering. I love also the thoughtfulness you put as you approach all of the things that are brought to you, because there are a lot of things that span a lot of different topics, and the attention that you put to that, as well as coming to the committees and the time away from your family. Just appreciate the dedication and all the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Sean?
A couple things from me. I'll thank our board specifically for being a board that really rolls up their sleeves and gets into the details in an appropriate way. No micromanaging, but just appropriately asking questions and really digging into it, whether it's reading easement agreements or lots and lots of board policies. You guys definitely don't do it for the glory, but I appreciate all your service. The other thing I wanted to mention was, since our last meeting, we did conclude our annual audit, and so I will thank our fiscal office staff for all the work they put in during the audit, but also throughout the year. Received another clean audit report from the Auditor State's office, so thanks to them for all their work.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Sean, this year they asked us if there was any fraud or anything we knew about, so usually that's just Charles's job, but if we pass, that means we all say the same thing. So
2 thumbs up.
There you go.
That's good. Thank you, Sean, for a clean bill. That's great. That's a good thing. Keeps us moving forward. Just a few things. One, snow days. Just want to say it out loud. We did have a snow day last Friday. Just want to remind people the decision-making process. We have
The
4 of
board
us.
calls a special meeting and we vote.
We
that
do.
morning. Yep.
3:30 in the morning, board comes together. I told you they're at work and all. No, we do 4 o'clock in the morning. We have 4 of us that go out. We have 4 quadrants. We hit those quadrants. We like to see that because some people wonder, why don't you call it the night before? If it's obvious and there's snow on the ground or ice on the ground, night before is something we'll consider, but we do go out and want to see it. We were able to make that call on Friday, and then we do consider cold weather. So people, that is on our website. If people have questions about that, we look at minus 15-ish to minus 20. So we are looking at those numbers carefully. So I just want people to know that if I ever look really tired, I was out this morning again at 4 because they told me, meteorologist said it's going to be icy, but it was actually just rainy, and we're glad it was just rainy today. So we also have National Counselor Week is coming up. It's actually the first week of February, so I just want to thank our counselors. Our counselors do so much great work with our, not just our students, but with our families and even beyond our district. When there is a tragedy in another district, our counselors and our prevention and wellness folks step up and lean in. We had some different things happen in districts close to us that are tragic events, and our staff just steps up every time. I don't get to share that all the time, but they do that behind the scenes. So thank you so much. I got to be a part of we had a person mention the play this weekend. That's going on, I think, this weekend again. If you haven't seen it, it is moving for sure. And so I will just say, go into that with the right mindset. It is deep, moving, it's heavy, and the kids handle it with great care and such professionalism. So it's just well done. So I want to thank them for that. And finally, Wyatt turned 16 today. So Wyatt, happy birthday. I heard you won your first game so far today. So if you see this, not that you'll ever watch any of my board meetings, but we have another 16-year-old, another driver on the road. So warning.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Item number 15, board commentary. Matt?
Thanks, Charles. I'll reiterate one of the things you said about Board Appreciation Month. It is the most awkward board meeting of the year, and sometimes we find it silly, but I did want to reiterate what you said, Charles, is that one of the reasons why it's awkward for us is because we can't imagine people thanking us for doing this job, because it's a joy to serve this community, and our administrators and staff, students and families make it that, and so we're lucky to do this, and so that's one of the many reasons why it's awkward for us, and we squirm up here a little bit every year. And then 2, I wanted to just kind of circle back to the conversation that we had during the hearing of the public, and just, as Charles said, it's got to be awkward to come up here and kind of pour your heart out and talk in front of us and hear nothing in return. Now is the time where we can say something back and to the extent that folks are listening or wondering if we did say anything else, during the course of the night, I just wanted to make sure that our students and families know that we do hear you, we see you, and our task is to create a safe learning environment for you. We mean our values when we talk about inclusive excellence and a safe place to learn for all, being a destination district, all those things that were repeated back to us tonight. Those are central to what we do. And I just want to make sure that I understand, I fully appreciate that some people think that the response, there should be a response from a school board when there's legislation that impacts children. It's just been the policy of this board, and I think a very good one for many different reasons, that we don't take public positions on controversial issues, especially ones that are in Columbus, as a rule. For many reasons, but the fact that we don't does not mean that we don't hear you, does not mean that our district is not advocating for you, and that we won't do everything in our power to make sure that you have a safe learning environment here in Mason. So I just wanted to just say that out loud in case there is any, to the extent that when you don't hear back from us, we can't tell you that while you're in the room. I apologize for that. But also, if anybody reads into the fact that we're not taking action in response to it, that means something about our position on whether we will protect our students. And that's, I just want to make sure that we said that. So that's all.
Thank you, Matt. Connie?
Yeah, it was an awkward board meeting in terms of receiving the appreciation. And you're right, Matt, for the reason that you gave, that it's a little awkward. We are very privileged to do this job, but it's also a privilege. And I am very grateful to my peers, the other folks that serve in this job along with me. It's very much appreciated for the position that you take and how you welcome everyone through the years, the new board members. And it's just a pleasure to serve with this team. The other thing that I'll comment on tonight is it is very awkward and difficult to come with a full heart to a public microphone and speak. And we don't take public positions on a lot of subjects as board members, but I would like to take this moment to say, when you go through your day and you meet up with someone, or you must work with someone, or you have the opportunity to work with someone, don't forget that you don't know whose shoes they're walking in. You don't know what they're going through today. Just be patient with each other and make each other feel welcome and happy to have the opportunity to be here in Mason every day with resources and people who really do care about you as an individual. We care about each other. So just think about that as you go through your day.
Thanks, Connie. Ian?
How about I make it more awkward and just say that I really like you guys? I think whatever you think this is and what we do, if you haven't done it, it's kind of hard to know, right? And the kinds of people and relationships you forge as you do this work, and you see just how much time and investment and care that not only the board has, but the administrators and the building administrators and staff. And so your appreciation for what we have here and the opportunity to talk to other board members in other districts and maybe even see some of that. We interact with them through OSBA at times. This is a unique setup, and not every board functions in this way. And I think we all, in as much as one can have an ego as a board member, they're very limited and subsumed to the cause of making sure that we serve the community and the district and the students and staff. So I like you guys. We're missing one of our esteemed colleagues, and we just wish her the speediest recovery and all the care in the world, and hope that she's being waited on hand and foot as she recovers. So, let's make it more awkward. I like awkward.
This not being public here, the hearing of the public, we can respond and we'll say we like you too.
Oh, appreciate it. Appreciate it. I wasn't fishing.
Just
I wasn't
not let
fishing.
that-
But
to let that go unsaid.
appreciate that. Yeah, I wanna echo Matt and Connie's sentiments. It's hard to hear the hurt and passion and care that our students and our families express, and just let it end with a thank you. I wish they would stick around and hear all of the fun things that we vote yes on, so that we can get to the point where we could look them in the eye as we give our commentary and say, they want us to take action. And I would largely say that in ways we have, we create safe and inviting schools that we have tip lines, we have resources for mental health counseling. We try to provide them with as many supports as we can, and if there's others that they feel like they need, we're here. Our administrators are always listening to hear what it is we need, by way of making sure that every day that they show up, they feel like they can learn and be their full selves. So, it's always unfortunate when folks feel targeted by their government. It is not something that anyone would want for themselves, or that they want to feel that way. And so, I would encourage them to continue their advocacy and their passion. I often think that it's interesting because we provide, they show up to our school board meetings to talk to us, I think in large part because we do make them feel safe and they can access us. So for that, I'm grateful to hear their stories and carry their stories. And I just hope that they continue to take whatever actions they need so that they can bring about the things that they are looking for. So, I think we'll keep supporting our administrators as they do the work of making each student that shows up to the school building and school district feel welcome to be themselves and bring their full self to Mason City Schools. So I want us to continue and expand that. I think somebody brought up a Tracy quote, and I couldn't agree more that that's who we are. That's what we do. So I appreciate you guys for continuing to do that and leading with that vision. So
thank you, Ian.
Yep.
Let's see here. There's something going on tomorrow night. Or what it is.
Yes, there is, here in this building.
It's a curriculum teaching and learning night. 6 o'clock?
Teaching and learning night.
6 o'clock. Excellent.
Please come.
No, I think I'm particularly pleased we've got the local news here to cover our curriculum and teaching and learning night tomorrow night, and I know that's what they're here for, and I'm excited to go home and watch it tonight on my, as I nod off to bed. But I hope that the amplification of tonight's meeting brings a higher turnout than it might otherwise for tomorrow night. So I'm looking forward to that, and encourage everybody who has questions or interest in what we do here in Mason City Schools and what goes on in the classroom to brave the elements, whatever they might be. Come out tomorrow night. We'll be eager to welcome you. Just like we are eager to welcome those who visited us tonight. It was a little more crowded room than it usually is for our board meetings, but we always welcome the attendance and the interest from our community. We welcome the commentary and the insights that they share, and we take it to heart. We listen to it, and I think it's not so much that this board's had a policy of not weighing in on controversial issues. We have sort of held fast to not making a practice of voting on ornamental resolutions, things that aren't actually taking the action that is involved. So, we do work through different policies and different practices that have an impact in our classroom. But to the extent that, we are requested, whatever the issue is, whatever side of the issue is, we have not gotten into that over the years, and I believe it, like Matt said, I think it's served us well. I think it's served our district well. And I would just echo the sentiments that regardless of what goes on in Columbus or in DC or wherever else, our board is tasked with making this a safe and inviting environment for our students. I think we do a good job of that, and I credit our administration a lot with that, as well as the parents in our community, because you guys are in there on the day-to-day basis and you see what goes on You know the reality of our classrooms relative to whatever's out there in the news or being reported or portrayed as going on in schools across the country. You are the best situated to speak to that and to react and respond to that. And I think it's evident, as Ian pointed out in the attendance tonight, that I feel like Mason does a good job of keeping people making them feel safe and welcome, evident by our the confidence with which people feel to take the podium to share their views. But it would also be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that we do hear from people who don't share those views, who oppose those views, and we acknowledge that they're not in the room. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable to attend a board meeting like this because of the fear that they harbor. And so we're mindful of that as well, and we're mindful that that's just another reason that whatever the topic is, it has served this board well and this district well, not to wade into those waters when our elected officials at our state representative level, at our state senate level, congressional level, whatever it may be, who are actually voting on those bills are the ones that need to hear from their constituents. And in the event that they don't go with what their constituents believe to be the right path, there are mechanisms in Ohio in particular that we've seen very recently for, the legislature passes a law, the governor vetoes it, the legislature overrides the governor. There are mechanisms for the people to still come up to circulate petitions and to amend, the Ohio Constitution. And we very recently experienced that as well. So I appreciate all of the comments tonight. I appreciate people's passion and concern for their fellow students and community, and for just the engagement in making this as great a district as it can be. So with that, I'll see everybody.
Thank you so much for our gifts. We're grateful.
That
We
too.
are grateful.
Yes.
We appreciate you all.
I will say thank you on behalf of our fellow board member who couldn't make it here tonight, and see everybody tomorrow night here back at the high school at 6 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.